If you've ever searched for tax help, you've probably seen two credentials pop up, CPA and EA. Most people assume CPA is the gold standard and EA is something less, but that's not quite right. These two designations have completely different histories, different licensing bodies, and potentially different specialties. And depending on your situation, an EA might actually be the better choice. It might surprise you to know that the enrolled agent designation is actually older than the CPA. The EA designation traces back to just after the Civil War with the passage of the Horse Act of 1884. After the war, the federal government was flooded with claims from citizens seeking payment for horses, wagons, and supplies that had been seized or damaged as a result of the war. There was, however, rampant fraud as claims on the Treasury Department for lost horses exceeded horses actually lost. As a result, legislation was passed which allowed the Treasury Department to enroll or certify agents to represent citizens in these claims before the government. A standard was created for enrolled agents that included suitability checks, criminal records checks, and a moral character evaluation. Over time, the role of these enrolled agents shifted away from property claims and towards taxes, particularly as the federal income tax was established after the 16th Amendment in 1913. The IRS formalized the EA program, and today EAs are federally licensed by the IRS, not by any state. To become an EA, you have two paths. Pass the special enrollment exam, which is a rigorous three-part test covering individual taxes, business taxes, and representation practices and procedures before the IRS, or be a former IRS employee with at least 5 years of technical experience. EAs must also complete continuing education each year to maintain their status. Before 1896, accounting in the United States was largely unregulated. Anyone could call themselves an accountant or bookkeeper with no formal licensing, education requirements, or professional standards. The profession was essentially self-policed through reputation. However, in 1896, New York became the first state to pass a CPA law, creating a licensing exam and requiring accountants to meet education and experience requirements before they could use the CPA title. Other states followed slowly, and in 1917, the American Institute of Accountants, now known as the AICPA or the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, was formed to create national standards. Today, CPAs are licensed at the state level. Each state sets its own requirements, but they're broadly similar. CPAs must have a bachelor's degree with a concentration in accounting, 150 college credit hours, and must pass the Uniform CPA exam, which is notoriously difficult and has 4 sections, and typically 1 to 2 years of supervised work experience. Maintaining a CPA license also requires ongoing continuing education. The scope of a CPA is broad. They can do audits, financial statement preparation, business consulting, tax planning, and tax filing. So how do you actually choose between an EA and a CPA? CPAs are state licensed, but many states have CPA mobility laws in place that allow them to use a license from any state within their borders. An EA is federally licensed by the IRS and can practice in all 50 states without needing additional licensing. Both EAs and CPAs can represent clients before the IRS, but the EA's entire credential is built around tax and tax representation. EAs are specialists in tax law and IRS procedure. If you're facing an audit, have unfiled returns, owe back taxes, or are dealing with an IRS collections issue, an EA could be the better call. CPAs have a broader scope. If you need audited financial statements, business valuations, forensic accounting services, or complex corporate consulting, you likely need a CPA. EAs, by contrast, focus almost exclusively on taxation. Both require ongoing continuing education, but EAs must complete 72 hours every 3 years with at least 16 per year, all focused on federal taxation and representation. CPA's continuing professional education requirements vary by state and cover a wider range of topics, but generally 120 hours every 3 years with a minimum of 20 hours per year is needed. Both designations are also required to obtain ethics hours. If you need help with your taxes, such as filing, planning, resolving IRS issues, responding to an audit, an enrolled agent is a highly qualified specialist who lives and breathes tax law. If, however, you need broader financial accounting services, audited statements, business consulting, bookkeeping systems, or complex multi entity structures, a CPA could be the better fit. And in many cases, you might work with both an EA for tax matters, a CPA for broader financial oversight. And if you're an aspiring accountant who is considering an EA or CPA, most public accounting firms now allow EAs to move up the ranks just as CPAs do. If you have any questions with respect to either designation, let me know in the comments and follow along for more.